Hi guys, thanks for joining me. I'm Andy Moss from Moss Technical, and I'm the UK supplier for Niko home control products throughout the UK. I train electricians and installers on how to install smart home installations, and surprisingly, we never get told by our client that they have an unlimited budget. Everybody wants value for money, and depending on what your budget is, we can create a value for money smart home. So I'm just going to explore how we can do that for you. So first of all, let's take a look at what is a smart home. Well, a smart home is basically a home that can think for itself. Traditionally, the light switch would only operate the light, but we can do so much more these days. It has a number of systems that can interact with each other with that minimal human inputs. Now, you don't want to lose control. If you take a look at quite a lot of you might have seen the recent series on ITV called Finding Alice, and of course, she lived in a smart home that her husband built for her, and she couldn't even flush the toilet or open the curtains because it was made too complicated. That is a bad example, and that is not what we're going to do here. The bottom line is just like your car. You want to get in your car and drive from A to B, knowing that it's going to get you there safely, energy efficiently, and comfortably. But all you want to do is just drive. Yet your car is making decisions all the time behind the scenes, and that's effectively what we're going to do with the home. So first of all, let's take a look at what functionality would make a smart home. Well, first of all, we've got lighting control. Now, as I said before, the light switch that we're all used to, that turns a light on, and that's all it will ever do. Now, with a smart home installation, the lighting control could be, for instance, a push of a button that the system then influences multiple circuits to create a mood or a scene. That could equally be an all-off function by the front door. So when you press that button, it turns all your lights off throughout the house. So you no longer have to go around the house to turn all these lights off yourself manually and then risk leaving things on. Small power control, well, we're not talking about table lamps now because, of course, that would come under lighting control. I'm talking about things like your tumble dryer socket and your dressing table socket. Now, of course, we're not going to want to turn off our fridge or our freezer, but we might want to identify some non-essential power sockets throughout the house that we want to kill off when we press that all off button. So now we go out the house, turn the lights, press the button, that turns the lights off, and it turns these non-essential power sockets off as well. So your dressing table socket, your straighteners don't get left on, for instance. Now, we've all got to heat our homes, and we're all pretty much doing heating zone control now for our heating. Now, with a smart home, again, if we integrate this system with the smart home itself, pressing an all-off button as we go out the house again, using that same example, that can now also turn our heating down, so we're not heating the house unnecessarily. We'll have smartphone control of it from anywhere in the world as well. Now, ventilation control, we're not talking necessarily going to the extent of an MVHR system, though you may include that in your system. But equally, if you're only going down the road of extractor fans, then normally an extractor fan in the traditional way of wiring, the fan would come on at the same time as operating the light in a bathroom, regardless of whether you're going in to brush your teeth or wash your hands or whatever. We can make it where with a smart home, those fans come on, say 3 minutes later. So if you're in and out quickly, the fan hasn't kicked in, therefore not sucking all that nice warm air to outside. But if you're in for say more than 3 minutes, then of course you need your ventilation, and that will then kick in. Now, shading control is quite a big one, really, for me. The fact that gives you quite a few benefits. It gives you a security benefit. The fact that if you're not in, the blinds can close automatically at sunset and open at sunrise. That gives the impression that you're in, even though you're not. So you could be the other side of the world, knowing that your home looks lived in. And that goes back to lighting control, making lights turn on and off in the evening as if you're in. That can all be possible with a smart home. Now, going back to shading control, later in life, mobility may become an issue. You might want to say, Alexa, close my curtains, or hey, Google, open my curtains, whatever system you decide to use. Now, initially at the design of the installation, you might think you don't need shading control, but if you wire it now, then you could add it later on. Multi-room audio, we all like music, or most of us do, throughout the house. Now, using or incorporating multi-room audio can also help make a smart home a comfortable living environment. And TV distribution. But again, do we want to do a centralized TV distribution where we put all our skyboxes, Blu-ray players, Apple TV, CCTV in a central cupboard, for instance, and then use what we call a matrix to distribute that to the relevant TVs, therefore not seeing these devices in the room? Or do you go the other extreme and just go for quite simply smart TVs, where we can stream our content to the TVs and not have to distribute it centrally? These are all factors. And some of us may benefit from having a spare room that you want to create a home theater or a home cinema environment in. And again, we can do that various ways. You could either have a full immersive audio Dolby Atmos experience, which is going to cost you more, or you could quite simply go for retrofit wireless devices that give you that wireless surround sound experience. And of course, it just depends on your budget. But can you afford all of this? Well, that's entirely up to you. I would always say to put your entire wish list together of everything you think you might want. Don't prejudge it, because you'll be surprised that some of these things don't necessarily cost anything to incorporate or cost minimal amounts, but yet the benefits far outweigh that. So if we take a look at lighting control, for instance, you might have lots of lighting circuits, but it's cheaper to switch a circuit than it is to dim a circuit with a smart home installation. So yes, certain circuits are going to need to be dimmed, but generally speaking, you could get away with like a table lamp circuit. You might want to put a lower power or a warmer white lamp in it in the table lamp to create that softer environment rather than having to dim it. And we can fill up spare modules. We can do what we call value engineering. Now, if you've got, for instance, say a module for switching that will control 6 circuits, and you've got, say, 12 circuits of 10 circuits of switching, then that means that you need 2 modules, which would give you the capability of 12, for instance. So you've only got 10 circuits of lighting, but your modules are capable of 12. So therefore, we could say, well, let's do the dressing table socket and the tumble dryer socket as well. So it's not necessarily cost you any more to integrate that or to implement that, but now you've got small power control as well. Now, with heating control, if you incorporate your heating with the smart home installation, it doesn't necessarily mean you need to buy the heating controls and thermostats from your heating engineer company. They may need to delete that from theirs, because you can use the smart home installation to control that instead. So therefore, you could steal some of that budget for the smart home budget. And again, ventilation control, well, if you're using the extractor fans, those are just simple switch circuits. Or if, for instance, it's an MVHR installation, you won't now need to necessarily buy their own controller for the control of their system. So therefore, that could save you a little bit of money, which could then be used for the smart home budget, and it'll often cost you less. Now, shading control, perhaps you might have the budget for it, or maybe only have the budget for certain rooms. But if you don't, you can certainly pre-wire it for this type of installation. It's obviously cheaper to put a cable in at the build stage than it is to try and add it later on, of course. And multi-room audio, well, again, do you pre-wire for in-ceiling speakers everywhere and fit those, which is going to cost you more for the equipment? Or do you go down the road of wireless devices, like, for instance, Sonos or Bose, and add those as you require later on and integrate those with the system? Or do you decide to just put the cables in for now and then add the speakers later on when the budget permits? TV distribution, there's lots of ways we can do that. Again, we could centralize everything in a cupboard, and we could use what we call a matrix to distribute those the images to the relevant TVs in the house, which means you don't see the controls in the devices in the room itself, like the skyboxes and the Blu-ray players, CCTV, and things like that. Or we could go down the other end of the spectrum, which is just quite simply using smart TVs, where you can stream Netflix and live TV to them using your wireless network. And again, the home cinema, do you need it? Well, that's entirely up to you. If you do and you really want the home cinema, then obviously you've just got to think about, are you going to have the full Dolby Atmos experience, which is one end of the spectrum, or quite simply the wireless devices, like, for instance, Sonos or a surround sound wireless system that can give you that experience, okay, at a much lower cost. But do you need it all to be, do you need all of that functionality to be able to call it a smart home? Well, quite simply, no, you don't. I would say that lighting control, heating control, and ventilation control are really important to be able to call it a smart home installation. Other things are, of course, optional. But the bottom line is, if I take you back to the previous slide when I said, what is a smart home? Well, of course, it's a home that can think for itself. It's entirely up to you how far you want to go with it. But you can decide what your budget is and then plan accordingly. Now, ultimately, people buy with benefits or buy based on the benefits of what they're looking to buy. Of course, you've got lots of features. You don't buy a car because it's got a steering wheel, it's got four wheels, it's got an engine, and it's got a bonnet and a boot. You buy it because it gets you from A to B, quickly, safely, efficiently. It makes you feel good. These are all benefits. So, what are the benefits of a smart home installation? Well, it's comfortable. The fact that we can have certain lighting moods and scenes operating automatically. So, for instance, the lights can automatically dim down at 9 o'clock without you needing to have that input. The fact that when you go into a bathroom, the light comes on at 100% in the evening and the fan comes on 3 minutes later. But then if you go into the same room at, say, 4 o'clock in the morning to go to the toilet in the night, the light only comes on at 10% because it knows it's that time of night. It's safe. Well, to give you an idea, an example of what we can do for safety, then if the fire alarm activates, the smart home installation can turn your lights on at the same time to give you a nice safe escape route. And it's secure as well. Making the house look lived in when you're not there is a real big benefit to an installation, to your home. The fact that your curtains can close when you're not there, you might be on holiday, or lights turn on in the evening without even thinking about it. If you're not there, for instance, and again, then if there's motion in the garden, the outside light comes on. Then perhaps a sequence of internal lights like the bedroom, the landing, and then the hall, as if you're now moving around the house, even though you might be on holiday the other side of the world. It gives you added value to the home. It's going to get to the stage fairly soon where people are going to be buying a home and they're going to be asking the question, is it a smart home? Well, if it's not, then obviously that's going to affect the value and the saleability. And of course, it's flexible. Well, most of us who are building a home, our needs now aren't necessarily going to remain the same as we get older, especially if it's a forever home. Then maybe mobility might become an issue, and therefore functionality like automatic curtains might suddenly be of a benefit, or being able to have voice control to say, turn your lights on, activate the all off function, or activate cozy mood. Then these are all things that are a big benefit later in life. And that leads us on to the fact that it is future proof. Our needs now are completely different to what our needs are going to be in the future. Or, if you sell your home, the needs of another family or another person buying the house is going to be different to your needs. So the installation can be changed very quickly and easily to meet those needs. So by wiring for a smart home installation, then you're giving yourself all of these benefits. So, in summary, the main thing I would say and advise is to first of all plan early, get your wish list in on paper. Talk to your smart home professional. We can help you with that. We can put you in touch, or we can help you directly. Now, by planning early and getting that wish list in gives you the overall budget. Then you can treat it like a shopping list to be able to maybe strip things out. And if you really want something but don't have the budget now, then you can wire for it and allow for it now. So that you are able to add it later on. So, like I said, running cables for systems you don't quite have the budget for yet, your curtains, your blinds, or maybe your speakers. And don't be afraid of change. If we look back at the good old Nokia phones, for instance, before the smart home came about, well, quite a few people were afraid of change, but and switching to that smartphone technology. But now that they have, I can guarantee that every single one of those people won't want to go back to the good old Nokia because of what benefits it gives them now. Now, as I said, electrical wiring's not changed for about 30 or 40 years at least. We're in this connected world, this era of change. So by wiring for a smart home, you're giving yourself maximum flexibility for the future. So that's all from me. Thanks very much for watching. I'm going to take some questions now if you want to fire those over to me. And thank you very much.